Vulnerability is that, "Ooh, man, I don't wanna be vulnerable."
Right.
That's scary.
You kept talking about it and saying, I really want to help people in the messy middle. I'm in the messy middle every day. I really love the messy middle. And I'm like, every time you say it, it activates anxiety in me.
You get curious. You step into curiosity with the other that you're having some contention with or some conflict with or some misunderstanding.
How to enter into the messy middle and how to get through the messy middle.
I like that you bring that up.
It is the place of safety. It is the place of help.
Listening with the intent to understand. That takes vulnerability too. Hello, Shannon.
Hello, Chico.
I am not excited. I'm fired up about today.
Yes, you are, because you get to talk about
Oh,
things that you love to talk about, right?
well, and I
Yeah.
like that you have some good questions for me. That's what I'm fired up about. But before I really get into this, after our last episode, you and I talked about, you said you were a beginner in golf. And then we went and played golf. And we had these two gentlemen that were older, that were both single, that joined our foursome. And I just asked the question in passing. I go, "Do y'all think Shannon is a beginner?" What'd they say?
They said no.
Yes. So,
But here's the thing. So in the last episode, we talked about how, when we are playing golf together and I hit shots, your comment is a double negative because thoughts are negative. We talked
did
about
I in
thoughts and
this
everything.
last one?
And you all would always say, well, that's not bad. And I'm like, that's terrible. So
But what does this have to do with you being a beginner?
because that's what we talked about, because you said we talked about your golf game last episode. That's what it has to
Yeah.
do with. And I said, that's not encouraging. You were like, I was trying to be encouraging with, I thought, because we were talking about thoughts, I thought I was being encouraging by saying that's not
But
bad.
what we found out,
But
these
so,
guys said,
but that kept me, your thoughts kept me in that I feel like a beginner,
beginner mindset.
because you're like beginner mindset, because you're like, it's not bad. I mean, it could be better if you practiced and if you did. And then I'm like having to defend my game because I'm like, well, I'm just a beginner. And then,
You
so
discount
we
yourself.
played and I played my game, and you didn't say, because we had just done the episode, you kept yourself from saying
The double negative.
the double negative. And so my mindset, and then we played with two random straight, they didn't even know each other. They were paired together, and then they were paired with us, and they both said, no, she's not a beginner. So,
And even one of them,
but that just tells you the power of our thoughts and what we say and all that kind of stuff. So just
well,
prove
I
my,
just also
I
wanted
just
to
proved
bring
my
up,
point.
I just wanted to bring up the fact that you're not a beginner. No
Okay.
more
You know what?
saying that.
I don't know why you bring this up in a public forum, because you've played golf since you were how old?
6.
6. Okay. And so I've played for how long?
3 years.
I mean, 3 years. And I started before COVID and then couldn't play during COVID. So, I mean, I'm going to call it 2 years.
Okay, you can call it 2 years, but you're not a
I'll
beginner.
call it 3 years, but I haven't played all my life. I mean, I don't know. People could probably chop that up to whether or not it's a beginner or not. I've just gotten better enough, faster enough
Oh,
that
you're
maybe I'm not a beginner because of my skill level, not because of the time that I've played.
yes. It's not the amount of time, but your skill level has really
For a
skyrocketed.
numbers and a stats guy like you should be very afraid.
I am
Because if
afraid.
I'm getting that much better in that short a time.
Oh, well, and there is this difference. You do play tees that are sometimes 120 yards in front of me.
It's we're not going to get into that conversation, the difference between men and women and all that. But I mean, it's ladies' tees. I mean, it's
Yes.
It's a legit physical difference in our games, but not, I mean,
I liked it. I liked
yeah.
that I just
So let's just,
randomly asked their names were Dave and Ruben, and I go, Dave, Ruben, would y'all consider Shannon a beginner? No. I mean, there was no hesitation.
I like that. I mean, I could get real cocky about that. So thanks for bringing it up. But yeah.
Yes. So
Okay.
I was excited that I found out that my wife is not a beginner.
Okay. And you didn't use the double negatives anymore and won't anymore because it's not how you would talk to your friends. Anyway, I said that too.
Well, today's episode, man, we usually haven't in the past. We've done this. We're relaunching all these episodes. So to give a little background, we would go into the studio. We don't have a studio now. We're doing these in California. We're on vacation. We brought our computers and you and I are interacting. But a couple nights ago, we spent time really dissecting what we're going to talk about today.
Yes. And we kind of had to because people that obviously, well, I mean, even people that listened to us, previously before this relaunch, wouldn't know this, but we never edited episodes. I mean, we would just walk into the studio and just start, kind of just talking. And I mean, we would have a topic in mind, obviously. And
We would have it would
we
be
would
like
kind
up
of
here a little
separate. We
bit.
would kind of separate though and do our research and our thoughts on things and then come together. And so it was that was kind of the beauty of it, is it was kind of real life, like
We would process out loud,
Right.
like what we said in our last episode.
Yes.
We live life
Well, and
out
those
loud.
that would be our intro. We're just two people, living life out loud, in hopes of helping others. And so that's what kind of goes into our prep work. Well, you've talked about this
concept
a lot, and with your clients and with me and everything else. And we got to talk because in doing my own soul searching and research and thoughts about this concept, I just couldn't get where you are. I didn't really understand.
Yeah, and so today, what we're gonna do is we're really gonna define this concept, but we're gonna also give you tools on how you can really step into this concept.
Yes.
And what this concept means.
So we'd like to explain it and define it and then kind of
give you the tools on the how.
Based on our real life, conversation that we just hopefully that.
And so
will help.
I almost want to frame up what this concept, even before I say the concept. I mean, I'm leaving people hanging right now, but how I want to frame it up is what I have done for a living, what I've done my whole life is I've lived at this place, from having, structured sober living to, a counseling practice with 10 therapists to then, a 90-day drug and alcohol treatment
residential
to coaching, to people come in, to doing interventions for over 30 years. People bring me into their life, and this is just it becomes second nature. It's like a contractor, knowing when they're pouring cement on a big project that they need rebar, and that they then need the plumbing, and they need the electrical. It's second nature.
An electrician knowing where outlets can go and where outlets can't go, and when all the things. Yeah.
And so that's
just an expert.
You're
an expert in your field, and so you're just used to walking through. Last episode, we talked about meeting with the architects, which we have zero knowledge of. And they're like, in this last meeting that we had, they said, Oh, yeah. In this picture, you see how it's 4 boxes and it's blah, 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 blah. Neither of us knew what they
What they
were
were
talking
talking
about.
about. It was second nature to them. And so that's why we sat
They
out and
make a
we
lot of
really,
assumptions about what we would know and what we wouldn't know
yes.
because it's second nature to them. So,
And so the concept that I really want us to explain, define, and then talk about how to do this,
is what you call
the messy middle.
the messy middle. That's what you call it.
That's what I call it. It's
After
that
years of experience in different avenues and different,
it's what I've been
things.
doing. It's what
It's
I
your
do for a
concept.
living. It's that place,
You're like, I like to help people step into the
messy middle. I love helping people step into the messy middle.
yes, and I've heard you say that over and over and over, but sometimes I wish that I didn't know so much about your work. Like other friends that have, husbands that let's say they're rocket scientists and they're not rocket
You
scientists.
don't have any friends that are rocket
I don't, but I
scientists.
just couldn't think of any. I just don't.
I mean, let's just say,
Listen, they don't have to hear about their spouses or partners daily day of work because you're not going to regurgitate rocket science like whatever, you know what I'm saying. Okay, I'm just using it as an example. Okay, but you work with human beings and I've worked with you, and
oh, I
so
brought you in.
although I don't have the details, in fact, you can't give me the details of your work, which is even harder because if you've had a highly emotional day, you can't share with me because of confidentiality. And
What I've shared with you, like you've asked me how was your day, and I've said, man, it was messy. And
yes,
when I've
that's what
said
I
it
was
was
going to say.
when I say it's messy, I actually liked it. I liked it because then some solution came up, some
Right.
progress happened.
Right. So when you come home and you're like, it was a really, a hard day, it was a tough day, tough circumstances. I'm just left with this like wreckage, like that I have to like put in my brain and make lots of assumptions, lots of it will activate pieces of me that are like I couldn't do what you do because I don't have the knowledge, but and so I will start to worry about how you're feeling and what's happened with you when you talk about messy middle. You're like, I love taking people through the messy middle. And when you say the messy middle, I would think,
What comes up for you?
well, I want to bury my head in the sand and not hear about it. I don't like the thought of messy middle but I don't even understand the concept. And so you kept talking about it and saying I really want to help people in the messy middle. I'm in the messy middle every day. I really love the messy middle, and I'm like every time you say it, it activates anxiety in me
How come? What do you think?
because I don't like messes.
Yeah.
I don't like messes. I don't like conflict. I don't like I don't like messes. I like organization. I like order. And so when you all you want to do is help people through the messy middle and all you want to do is talk about how to enter into the messy middle and how to get through the messy middle, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like I don't even understand that, and I haven't had words to um explain that to you without doing my own inner investigation and research and like getting in touch with why I don't want to know about that. So this episode is so that you can kind of define the messy middle and explain it. Can you please, what does that mean?
Well, and I like the question. What does the messy middle mean? And what I'm trying to tell people what the messy middle is that that's that place in life where you're having, internal and external conflict happening, in your circumstances. If you're a parent and your
Well, but
kids,
wait. Place in life meaning like middle aged.
I like that you bring that up,
I mean,
because
you're
my
saying
mind
I
starts,
like for people, you're already, I know where you're going because I know you
yes,
and I've heard it a million times, but
yes.
you're already going to, when people, like when you're a parent, like you're about to give examples, you still haven't defined or explained the messy middle.
The
What
messy
happens to people individually before they enter the messy middle? And does it mean middle aged? Like, do you have to be a certain age to be all of a sudden in the messy middle?
when you're having some internal thoughts and feelings happening inside you, either in a conflict with relatives, with family members, with a boss, with your friends, it's
With a
that play
parent,
with
with
a
a
parent,
child,
with a child. It's that place of
a
of
classmate,
internal angst. It doesn't even have to be conflict. If internal,
a teacher.
yes,
It happens every day, right?
all
Is
the
that what you're
time.
saying?
And
I
so
mean,
what we do is
to everybody.
we don't step there. And what happens, either we go to this place of
Well, we have the
sticking our,
beginning. We have the beginning. Wait, you're getting ahead of yourself. Okay,
yes,
so we have the beginning. We have everyday circumstances that happen to us every day in the human experience. When we walk out the door, no matter how old we are, no matter if we're,
in our
male, female,
teens, yes.
single, married, kids, no kids, teens, whatever, we are going to have situations come up
And
in our life.
I think on a, and I don't know if this answers the question, and so I'm throwing it out to you.
Okay.
Um, when we were growing up, when we were in high school and even in college, civil discourse from a political standpoint was accepted. You could see both sides of the argument.
Right.
People were Republican or Democrat, but they would come together and have discourse.
Well, and there wasn't so many avenues for bias. Twitter, or X or whatever, and
Instagram and
social media
yes,
and cable news outlet. What there wasn't so many outlets for bias to be, fed into. But so you're right. You could have a debate, healthy debate about
about
things,
things. And so when I
anything.
when
But
when
yeah,
I say the messy middle is like we avoid the messy middle. We don't want, if someone is disagreeing with us, if we don't like what someone is doing, if someone's actions affect us, uh, we don't step into that place of learning how to have that healthy dialogue. So the messy middle is that place to really get some clarity.
well, but I'm I'm talking I want you to get there. You're going to get
Yes.
there, but I'm talking about what happens before. Now, I'm going to use a very, very simple little anecdote since you talked about, back then. I remember, and this is all about when you are coaching people and you have clients, and as a therapist and as a coach for me, we steer clear of using the good, bad, right, or wrong, and we like healthy and unhealthy. And
Hmm.
so when we're trying to lead people through healthy, situations and conflict and healthy messy middle and all that stuff, which we'll get to, but that's just giving people the tools to do that. So I think back as simple as in elementary school, we used to walk and ride our bikes to school and back. That was just, and we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have communication and whatever. And my parents would always say they had a program called Helping Hands. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
And so if you were willing to be a helping hand, which today you probably couldn't do it because the pedophile bad people would put helping hands in their window, whatever.
Okay.
But okay, so they would put helping hands in their window. And so if you got into trouble, if you were unsafe or in
Flat
a
tire riding
situation,
your bike
if you were in a
home.
situation where you needed help that brought you anxiety or whatever, you could go to the helping hand house and get some help and get a phone or whatever. So what I'm saying is that we have situations that come up the second we walk out the door that cause us to have thoughts and feelings and try to be safe and healthy and protect ourselves.
The messy middle is not middle age. The messy middle is not a place where there's disorder. The messy middle, my concept is not that place of messiness or angst in your life. What I'm saying, the messy middle is that place to really learn how to have healthy conversations, learn how to hold space, learn how to step in to uncomfortable situations. The messy middle is that place to uh, explore what is technically, emotionally, thought wise happening with you, and truly, if you're having some discourse or some disagreement with someone, is stepping in and holding space for that person as well. The
Right.
messy middle is the learning how to have tough conversations.
And it's courage. I guess that was the reason I wanted you to say that. And then that's kind of the reason it's like when you feel the feelings come up or the thoughts, like, I may not be safe. This is giving me some anxiety. I need to confront it. I need to go ahead and step into it. It's having the courage to reach out to the helping hand in a healthy way or whatever. But it's, you have to be able to, um, first of all, know that you're feeling something and there's conflict coming up. There's something you want to say. Some people call it even like the God
Well, that
nudge, and
nudge.
you want to say something and you want to go ahead and
Well, the messy middle.
so then what do
Yeah.
you do? What do people normally do when because most people want to avoid the messy middle.
How come? Because of fear. People avoid the messy middle because they're afraid of something that they don't even know will happen. They're assuming it will happen, and they're future tripping, and they're projecting, and they're assuming all these things that might happen, and so they get caught in the weeds. There's a guy, Gino, that wrote this book called Traction, and it's about businesses, and what he's talking about in his EOS model is learning the healthiest organizations are the ones that have vulnerability. The messy middle ultimately is that place of vulnerability. It's that place that's safe, that's healthy.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
When we avoid the messy middle, when we don't, what I'm saying, the messy middle is that healthy place to be yourself, to be
Okay.
your authentic self.
So this is where we had the conversation because it sounds so counterintuitive to me to say that the messy middle is the helping hand. It is the place of safety. It is the place of help. If you can
Well, if you think
get
about it,
there,
though,
you know
yes,
what I'm saying?
yes. And so, what I was going to say, there's another word that people, uh, I think it's similar when you hear people say vulnerability.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is that, oh man, I don't want to be vulnerable.
Right.
That's scary.
Right.
What uh, Jesus talked about, blessed are the meek. Why do I want to be meek?
Right.
Blessed are the humble. Is to be humble, to be meek. That sounds counterintuitive to who we are. The
Right.
messy middle, I think, is that same place of how do I become in that place to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
to create a space that's safe.
How can I have the courage to go into the messy middle?
Yes, when everything in our psyche and how we're wired is about self-protection. And if
Yes.
I step into the messy middle, people get this concept that I'm not going to be protective. I'm not going to be safe. And what I am
Yeah.
saying and what I've really, unpacked and thought about and really studied hard is when we get to that place of vulnerability, if you look at businesses, if you look at couples, if you look at family systems, the ones that are vulnerable and can hold space for each other are the ones that are actually living in the messy middle,
Yes.
hearing what the other says, listening to understand instead of listening to defend. The messy middle is that place of listening to understand instead of listening to defend or react.
Yes. And I think that even just I get caught up on just the word messy, and we talked about that. And I I don't like the word messy because I like order.
Yes,
And so
you've
if
gotten
you're
hung up
I
on it.
have gotten hung up on the word messy. Now,
Now, so what I'm
as we
saying,
go ahead.
as what I'm saying though, is if you really unpack it, I understand that the word gets you stuck
Yeah.
and has you
It has
in this,
negative thoughts. Yeah.
and we were talking to this younger person, earlier today, and when we said messy middle to her, she was thinking middle age.
Right.
She's our boy's age.
Right.
So the word, I understand that, and that's how come we're unpacking it today. The
Right.
messy middle is that place to really uh, identify what's going on with you, step into, share that, get clarity of feelings, step into the messy middle is that place that we don't do it. How come? The two ways, if we're having conflict with our teenage kids or our adult parents, this conflict can go along with whoever we're in conflict with. There's two ways we respond by avoiding the messy middle. And those two ways are either being passive. Some people think the other way is being aggressive, but I don't think it's being aggressive. What I really think it's being impulsive. And impulsive is we get in there, and we might get into addiction issues. We might get into controlling codependency issues. And it doesn't necessarily have to come across as aggressive, because when we think aggressive, we think of, you know, the the conversation escalating.
Right.
We think of
Screaming, throwing
screaming,
things, breaking things. I mean,
name calling,
punching
all sorts of
walls.
things like that, which I think is impulsive also.
Yeah,
And
totally.
so my definition is it's not aggressive. We become passive or we become impulsive.
Right.
Passive is we stick our head in the sand, we avoid it. We might be that peacemaker in our family, and conflict arises and we go the other way, or we see someone being impulsive, we become very passive, and we might even fall into the couch. And you've heard those sayings, the lost child in the
Right.
family
Well,
or stuff like
it's kind of fight or flight
that.
also.
Yes.
It's both of those. It's fight or flight, and then it's like, avoiding conflict at all costs, which is what I do. And my family members will, because they're males, and males generally will, I mean, hit walls. And I mean, we've had two broken hands in my family because of hitting a wall instead of a person, which is, you know, but that's impulsive. But I'm not going to hit a wall because it would hurt. But I'm
But
going to
when
bury. I'm going to run away, and I'm
Yeah,
going to
and
bury
so
my head
when
in the
I
sand.
say messy, it's like what you have done is you have been more passive and run away and avoid, any uncomfortable conversations, uncomfortable situations. The messy middle is to
Because,
not to avoid the
but it's
uncomfortable.
also to ask somebody to enter into the messy middle when they literally don't know how to, first of all. But second of all, when they are so used to self preservation and fight or flight and wanting those feelings to go away. Like if I am in a situation, again, I'm just going to use the helping hand. I'm going to circle that up, this whole thing. But like if I'm on my bike riding home from school and I feel like somebody's following me, I would be the type that would be like, oh, I don't want to put anybody out. I am not going to go to the door and ask for help because I don't want to bother them. I'm just going to, pretend like nothing's happening and I'm going to get home as fast as possible or whatever. Like, and somebody else might be impulsive and not go to the door. They would turn around and try to fight somebody that was bigger than them or a more dangerous situation. Anyway, but what I'm saying is that in order for me to accept this messy middle situation concept,
how about ask me, what do you need to do?
Yeah, what do I need to do?
The concept of the messy middle is,
how do I organize the messiness? Yeah.
Okay. How do you organize the messiness? I believe the first thing to do is when you're looking at some kind of hard conversation or something that's stirred up in you from an interaction with someone else, is you what needs to happen is first, okay, what is my mode of operation? What's my MO? And that's what you were talking about before, that fight or flight mentality. Your MO would be to, be passive, to avoid the situation. Someone else's MO might be that impulsive is hitting something. And lots of times there are hidden people that get violent, but they get word vomit, which I think is the impulsive. They start accusing, they stop listening. So the first thing that happens before you step into the messy middle is recognizing what's going on with you. What is happening with you as you are having these feelings and thoughts. And so the first thing to do.
What you're saying is that, so when we start to have these feelings and know that we are going to have a tough conversation or a possibly uncomfortable conversation or something like that, then our go-to individually is going to be whatever might take those feelings away, make them go away, like comfort them, squelch them.
Yeah, that's looking at what your MO is, what your mode of operation is, okay, what am I doing to avoid these feelings?
Right.
I'm having these feelings. I'm having these thoughts that go along with these feelings.
Yeah, because we're all going to have that every day.
It happens every day. It's like someone cuts us off. You can't necessarily step in if you're driving your car and they cut you off. Don't do the road rage. That would be in the impulsive part.
Yeah.
Yes. You might not be able to step into the messy middle with that person, most likely.
Right.
But
exactly.
what you need to do is when it's something that's going on in relationship with others. That's what we are. We are in relationship with others. And it can be in relationship with others as it relates to, you might get an email on your phone or you might have a phone call. It's like, what is my mode of operation? Okay, I want to avoid this. How come I want to avoid this? Oh, my fear is coming up. I'm embarrassed about, what they perceive about me. I'm feeling guilty, or man, it just stirred a bunch of anger in me.
We are going to have to step into the messy middle no matter what.
No matter what.
Which is what I was trying to avoid, though, when we were talking about it and you were like, messy middle, messy middle, messy middle. Like, you got to step in, you got to step in. I was like, I don't want to, because I was hung up on the word.
Yes.
But now that we've had this conversation previously and you've explained it to me like you're explaining now, I see it more as if you can enter into the messy middle in a healthy way and then you get to the other side. Like, you don't have to stay. It doesn't have to stay there or whatever.
No, but the crazy thing is, when my concept is this messy middle is like, that's where the cool part of life happens, and it becomes second nature, and it doesn't become so messy. When you first start practicing these principles that we're talking about, getting away from being passive or being impulsive, and you step into the messy middle is that place where you're vulnerable.
So
where
that's
it's
how you
safe.
organize the messiness, by avoiding the passiveness or the impulsiveness.
Yes.
Okay,
And so you
explain that.
yes. And so that's how you do that. And so when you do that, you become safe. It becomes safe. It becomes vulnerable. You get curious. You step into curiosity with the other that you're having some contention with, or some conflict with, or some misunderstanding, whatever the situation is. With we can give examples and how to do that. Now there's ways to where you're not stepping into the messy middle, but you're being either impulsive or passive. So let's first talk about those things and what we
So it's
could
like
do
there's
different
3 forks in the road, or there's 3 doors you
to
can
go
choose
down.
from. Okay. And so you're saying like door number 1 is passive. Okay.
Yes.
Sticking your head in the sand. Door number 2 is the messy middle. Okay.
Yes.
Door number 3 is impulsive, possibly aggressive,
Which is impulsive.
out loud, like
Vomiting on the people.
action
Also.
with words or fist or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. Or addiction.
Or,
Codependency is, I think,
or
in the
drinking,
point.
like saying, I don't want to feel these feelings, I'm going to go drink.
Yes.
I don't want to feel
Which
these
could
feelings.
also be passive.
Yeah, I'm going to go isolate.
Yes.
Which could be passive, and the drinking could be passive too, because you're just going to go shut the door of a room or whatever.
Yes.
And then so we can look at it like a 3-pronged fork in the road, or 3 doors or whatever. But those are those doors. Okay, so you're there.
And so what I'm saying is we said in our last episode, we're living life out loud.
Yeah.
What I believe is we live more in the messy middle.
So we walk through an example that
Yes.
I haven't even, you won't even, you'll know the example, and then I think we can talk about it.
Yeah. So talk about it from a negative standpoint, how maybe you didn't do it.
Oh, I'm going to.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's what okay. So at home, we have an electric gate.
Yes.
Okay. That we've had a lot of problems with. And we've been out of town for a few weeks, and our oldest son has been watching the house. And
that's a stretch, but okay.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother conflict conversation. But I'm just gonna stick to this example. And so he informed us that the gate wasn't working. And things happen when you're out of town for a long period of time, and people, you expect things to, maybe break or happen. Well, it turns out that I think the gate, or we know that the gate was malfunctioning and not working because of our neighbor's sprinkler system that was going astray, and it was spraying right up into the control panel.
Yeah.
Okay. So we knew this a while back, and we informed that. What are you laughing at?
Oh, I could be impulsive right now. I'm going to just throw an impulsive statement out. And this is not healthy, but I just thought of it. I was going to go land the plane. Okay.
I think this is helpful for people to understand how I think details are important. This is where we differ. This is where you start to give me anxiety. This is a real life example of, I'm trying to set it up where, you and I deal with things differently. I'm kind of like, okay, well, let's just tell them I would want to bury my head in the sand and not even tell the neighbors. Like, I would just be like, go throw a brick over the sprinkler and then call the gate guy and whatever. But you are like, well, I'm calling the gate guy and we're getting it fixed, and then I'm going to have him pay for it. And I'm like, wait, oh my gosh. And I'm not sure that's the most and then I think, anyway, I can spin out. I'm landing the plane, but I'm telling you how I dealt with that situation. It wasn't, I didn't want to step into the messy middle with you, with the neighbor, or with you, even, because it would cause conflict between you and I. Because you'd be like, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't pay the gate guy without, I mean, if it, all the things cause conflict between you and I, it would cause conflict between the neighbor.
Okay, so give me the example of how
So I would just,
was the
so the negative, the unhealthy is me just saying, just fix the gate. Well, with you particularly, I'm like, please don't text that. Don't text them. And like, let's just handle it. Like, I'm not sure that that's unhealthy actually, but we just handle it differently. I don't know.
Okay, but
Do you want
I'm still let's talk about. I understand your
It gives me
example.
such anxiety. It gives you zero anxiety to
Okay,
be like,
so
I'm going to call, I'm
so
going to
you
tell them
became
to get
passive.
somebody out there.
So you
I became
became
passive.
passive. Okay, so that's it. So you seeing that, hey,
I didn't want to have the conversation. I didn't even want to talk to the gate repair guy because I didn't want him to tell me, oh, you have to replace the entire panel. It's going to be, thousands of
$1,500.
dollars,
Yes.
whatever. And like, I wanted it to just, I'm like, somebody else deal with this. I can't deal with it.
And so your way was your mode of operation, how you functioned all the time as you became passive right there.
Yes.
Okay. That's a great example. I like that example. I was joking about the impulsive. It just came up to me. And so that was good. But right there, also, I threw in the impulsive part when I told you to land the plane. I didn't step into the messy middle. You didn't step into the messy middle. So what would the messy middle look like now that I've explained it and shared that? What would be something different? That's a great example of, hey, we're on vacation. Our son's kind of there.
And I was hoping you would take responsibility for your part in that. I think you were impulsive because we're on vacation. You're like, if it's broken, and you're like texting the neighbor, and you're like, and then you're texting our son, and you're like, I told, the neighbor's son that, and I'm like, the neighbor's son isn't going to get the message, just like our son isn't going to get the message to us. I mean, I think you were a little impulsive.
I was a little impulsive, but
Waiting to hear.
I did text our neighbors and they did fix the sprinkler.
Yes.
And the gate is fixed. So I did step into it. Now I did make a comment about, hey, I'm going to call them and see if they'll split the cost with us, but I'm not going to. We got it fixed and stuff like that. But I did have some of that impulsivity. I didn't have the passive part like you did.
No,
But
at
we
all.
both did.
I'm just saying, I don't think either of us entered into the messy middle in a super healthy way. So when you said, what could I have done differently? I would have needed you to enter into the messy middle with me in a healthy way. And that
What
did
if I
finally
don't?
happen.
What if I don't? You're still called.
So
What I'm saying is you're still called to step into the messy middle.
I understand that. Okay. So this is why they call it the work and stepping into the messy middle, because I'm not sure what I need to do, because I still don't like confrontation like that. I don't like incidences like that. I don't know. What you tell me what I could have done.
I think what you could have done is, hey, this is bringing up a lot of anxiety for me. When you texted, the neighbors, what I'm telling myself to step into the messy middle is to let me know what you're telling yourself, to talk about the feelings that are coming up, to then be at an okay place in your vulnerability to hear what was going on with me. We did it, and I wasn't aggressive with the neighbors. I shared the text. I read you the text that I sent them, and I told you, hey, they responded back. They're getting it fixed.
Yeah.
And so all those things were real positive, but where you could have stepped into the messy middle is share what the thoughts and feelings you were having right there, and how you wanted to stick your head in the sand and hope it gets taken care of. And then you could actually then step back and have that boundary, because the messy middle then lets the other person know that there's a boundary, that, hey, I really need you to take care of this.
Yeah.
And so I believe that would have been the place. And I did. I reached out to the gate guy. I, communicated with them.
Yes.
And and I paid them yesterday.
Well, it was the sprinkler, but it was just a quick fuse. It's conflict resolved. I mean, it's resolved.
But that's where stepping into that's the things you could have done. So let's give another example. We're sitting out there and you asked, okay, hey, I go, I really want to talk about the messy middle.
Yeah.
And you started, sharing what you've shared on this episode already, about that word, just brings up stuff, and really asking me questions and really trying to get clarity.
On this trip, it was twofold. It was a little vacation, but it was also to work and talk about work where remotely, like where we can actually have a work conversation, like on the beach. It's so awesome. It's just change of scenery, all that kind of stuff. But you've been talking about the messy middle for years. You've just been laser focused on, like, that's where it's at. That's where I can really help people, and all that stuff. Well, from the get-go, every time you say it, I didn't know what it was. I was like, I didn't understand it. And then I realized on this trip, because like I said on a previous episode, you can kind of, maybe I said it on a previous episode or to you, but when you get away from your surroundings, you have a little change of scenery, you can have a little more clarity on some things or whatever. You can, like, feel your feelings a little clearer, and you can, kind of hone in on that stuff. I started to realize, you kept hammering, like, the messy middle's it. That's what I want to, like, kind of base everything off of. Like, it's like kind of home base. I was realizing.
So let me pause.
Okay.
But then we had a coaching session on August 6th. And Steve really told both of us, hey, you need to explain, define, and then talk about the how. And you were thinking all that as we were sitting on the beach. That was not that was not what was going on with me.
Oh, yeah, because I had taken notes. Yes. Because I'm order. I like order and
not messiness.
Order and not messiness. And so, but what I realized before I said anything to you, I mean, I've had all these feelings for months. So I had to address my own feelings. There was fear that I wasn't going to ever be able to get on board with it. We weren't ever going to be able to really, like, make a conversation about it. So I was feeling fear. I was feeling lonely. I was feeling, and I know this isn't a feeling or whatever, but however I can explain it, I was thinking, okay, maybe it was a thought. I was thinking instead of feeling. I was thinking, I'm going to be back to square one, where I'm just, like, grinding it out, doing things that aren't my passion,
or your understanding,
or my understanding, or
not
anything,
having clarity,
having clarity, just doing it for Chico, but not really understanding it. So I'm having all these thoughts, all these feelings, and they're all pretty negative. And I wanted to passively just go along with it and be like, oh, I get it. The messy middle is such a great idea or whatever, without understanding it. And yes. So I chose to instead say to you, that word, it's the word that brings up so much anxiety for me. It makes me think I don't understand what we're talking about. So I don't get it. I don't get it.
You did a great job of saying that, but you also said something that I think was motivated by feelings, but you said it in a healthy way. You actually practiced the messy middle, not even realizing it, not understanding this concept that I've talked about for years. But what you did was going, hey, you told me I'm not being critical. I hope
Yeah.
I'm asking you questions. I want clarity, but I'm not being critical.
Right.
And you let me in, and you became the messy middle is that place of, safety, vulnerability, clarity, with your
Yeah.
thoughts and feelings. You shared those things.
Yeah.
Then what you also did in the messy middle, you held space. You got curious. Help me understand. You, and as I began to explain, okay, you asked more curious questions. You got to this place of, hey, let's really unpack this.
Right.
It's that place of, hey, if something is bothering you, and it's this concept that I'm really trying to help people step into. And you talked about it's the word, and how this word, I know you like order. So when you hear the word messy, that doesn't turn you on.
No,
That doesn't
I'm not picking.
light up.
If I'm at let's make a deal and it's door number 1 and it says passive on it, door number 2 says messy middle, and door number 3 says impulsive, I'm picking door number 1 every time. Every 100 out of 100. Every time I'm picking passive
Yes.
because of the word on the door. I mean, I
Yes.
am
But
not.
what you did
But
when we were
now when
sitting
I
on the
know,
on the
I
beach
got
is,
some relief from all of those feelings, all of those thoughts, because I expressed to you what they were having me think and what they were having me feel. And then you were able to explain it. And then I got relief from that and
yes.
released from it and freedom.
Yes.
So I would pick door number 2, knowing like if I had it, I
So
could go back.
you talked about, as you were sharing this, you did talk about door number 1. Normally I would just go along and get along with Chico and stuff like that. So be impulsive, be critical. What would have been different on the beach that wouldn't have been the messy middle? Wouldn't have been passive, but would have been more impulsive and stuff, us talking about this episode. What would you have maybe said?
To be passive?
No, to be impulsive, to
Oh, to
be,
be impulsive.
passive. You already
That's
said
not
you
my
would be.
go-to. So
I know it's not your
I
go-to,
mean,
but just think what
I
would.
would say, I would say, I don't get it. I don't think you're making any sense at all. The messy middle makes 0 sense and no one's going to get it. And it's stupid and it's a dumb concept. And I can't believe you've been using it for years because it can't really help people.
Yeah. And so right there, that's a great example. And you could have said all those things, and then we would have sat out there and it would have festered on both of us. We might not have, gotten real aggressive, but I might have become passive and go, man, she doesn't get me. I might have built this whole case internally about, how my wife doesn't need to be doing this podcast with me, this filter option. I could have created all these different scenarios. You
Oh,
could have been, passive and gone, okay, I'll get along, but not really grabbed a hold of it. Or you could have been, hey, that's stupid. No one's going to get it, blah, 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 and not gotten curious. And
right.
so not stepping into that place of real curiosity, not stepping into that place of letting the other person know what's going on with
But
you.
making it about myself, like where I was coming from, and not, naming, I mean, not blaming or blame shifting or like kind of like, I can't believe you're trying to put me in this box to understand this, or whatever, I could have
Yeah.
said things like
I
that.
I have an example. I was meeting with someone via Zoom yesterday, and he has all these kids, and he comes home at 9 o'clock, but he has 2 young ones, and they're supposed to be in bed at 8:30. They have school the next day. They're 5 years old. Um, and he and I have talked about this, and he's a very orderly guy and stuff like that. And he goes, man, when I didn't like it either. I told him about our conversation.
Yeah.
Uh, he goes, but when you really talked about the impulsive and the passive, I've been passive, and then sometimes I've been impulsive. And so he what he was going to do, he's going to step into the messy middle yesterday with his wife about what comes up for him, his anxiety when they've made a deal, and he knows that she wants the kids, ready for bed and in bed, at 8:30. They're 5 years old.
Yeah.
The older kids are different, but he goes, I'm going to share what comes up for me and then get curious what was going on with her and stuff like that. The messy middle is really finding what's happening with the other, but letting the other know about what's going on with you.
Yeah.
And what I believe, that why I say sometimes impulsive is just vomiting. You gave a great example. You could have vomited on me on the beach a couple days ago, but you didn't. You talked about yourself. And so it was very
Because
digestible.
I was anxious about it, about just the whole not understanding.
Yes.
Not anxious about you or whatever. Like I said, it wasn't critical, but it had caused me a great deal of, and then I shared with you after, this is your deal. I mean, I'm happy it's our podcast ish and whatever, but this has been what you've been meant to do for a long time, and it was giving me
It was giving you
anxiety,
anxiety, and
which we don't have time to we can dive into
you
that later.
shared that, but the how to step into the messy middle is being vulnerable, sharing what your thoughts and feelings are about whatever the situation is. It to be straightforward,
Yeah.
take ownership. Yeah, I can think of an example from a business standpoint. The CEO was that I've worked with was working with someone, and the guy asked him point blank, uh, do you think I'm CFO material? And when I was talking to him earlier in the day before that conversation, I go, be direct, don't dance around. We can be in a situation and not step into the messy middle and start over explaining, well, I think
Yeah.
this, I think that, I see some things here that, hey, you're good at, I see where this is where you're struggling. Instead of be straightforward, the person asked a direct question.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how he responded was direct.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And no is a complete sentence. That's stepping into the messy middle.
Yeah.
That's that place where we get away from
Well, okay.
taking on the other person's feelings.
So what we talked about yesterday too in this messy middle was, you said something, I wrote it down because I wanted to go back to it, but you were like, the messy middle is not a place of actual messiness. It's actually how we were created for order. I'm like, that makes zero sense to me, somebody like me that doesn't think that way. But the way you're kind of explaining that, the person asking the direct question, and that's all in the messy middle, okay, wants a direct answer.
Yes.
And if they don't get a direct answer, that's a disservice to the person asking the question.
And a disservice to the person giving the answer.
Yes, but
because they're codependent.
If there's a direct question and then the person that's giving the answer, if they give a direct answer, that creates order.
Yes.
Because there aren't any
ambiguity.
Yeah, there's no assumptions being made. There's no, it's a direct question, a direct answer, and that is orderly. Okay?
Yeah, so you're getting my concept.
I am, but it still will, for a long time, if not ever, be hard to kind of square that word.
Yes.
Messy. And then when you say, like, the words that came out of your mouth were like, well, it's not actual place of messiness. And I'm like, but it is actually the word messy. Messiness, messiness. And you're like,
You
but
talk about
it's
me being
actually,
literal. You're
I mean, well, it kind of, words are kind of literal. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, so, but when you can kind of, but I think you have to, it takes practice and it takes getting healthier and healthier and healthy, doing work.
Well, what else it takes? It
So,
takes courage. It takes
well, yeah,
courage to be vulnerable with the other. It takes courage to be vulnerable. I think first also with yourself and identifying what your thoughts and feelings are. It takes courage to actually put aside listening with the intent to react or respond, but listening with the intent to understand. That takes vulnerability too. And that takes courage. And that takes that place of holding space for the other.
yeah,
So as we move forward, we're going to talk more about that courage. We're going to talk more about holding space. We're going to talk more about vulnerability because vulnerability is one of those words also like messiness. It's
yeah,
like who wants to sign up to be vulnerable?
right. I mean,
That's
yeah,
that's a scary place.
right.
This was a good episode and I liked your vulnerability. I like your accountability with your passiveness. You know, my
Mm,
impulsiveness is true.
yes, yes. And yeah, see, we could go down rabbit trails because I could
Yes.
talk about enneagrams and all that kind of stuff where I'm a 2, but in stress I go to an 8, which is
Yes,
challenger
you
and
do.
whatever. So I can be impulsive too, but
All
whatever.
right.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad we're here. Thank you,
Yes.
darling.
Okay. Thank you.